The issue of Nathan Buckley's job security as Collingwood senior coach is a commonly discussed topic within the AFL community. Since taking the reins from Mick Malthouse in 2012, Buckley's Magpies have finished in the lower position every year, and in 2018 the speculation surrounding his potential sacking remains at fever pitch. In this video, we take a closer look at his performance as senior coach, with specific reference to list management decisions over his tenure. Firstly, it is relevant to note that the Pies had finished first in both of Malthouse's final 2 seasons, including 1 premiership and another grand final appearance. During this period, Collingwood were dominant, and given the young talent on their list at the time, were considered by many to be on the verge of a dynasty of sorts. That was until club president Eddie Maguire fashioned a senior coach succession plan which would alter the course of the Magpie ship. Buckley would make the finals in both of his first 2 seasons. 2013, however, ended bitterly as the Pies were knocked unceremoniously out of the finals in Week 1 by Port Adelaide at the MCG. Following this result, Buckley made the brave decision to delist several high-profile older players at the end of the season, such as Alan Didak and Heath Shaw. This began a series of questionable list management decisions over the following years, which somewhat emphasised the perceived lack of direction of the Collingwood Football Club. In addition to losing those players, Chris Dawes, Dale Thomas and Ben Johnson all left the club at the end of 2013, and the Pies decided to replace them like for like with Quinton Lynch, Clinton Young and Jordan Russell. Tellingly, 2 of these players would be off the list within a year. The Pies also used pick 44 to acquire Sydney forward Jesse White, who managed to eke out 56 mediocre games for the Pies before taking an early retirement at the age of 29. The one genuinely positive move the Pies made during that off-season was flipping want-away defender Heath Shaw for promising young midfielder Taylor Adams. Adams has played 68 games for the club and now serves as co-vice captain. In addition to this, the Magpies importantly were able to add 2 top 10 selections in the national draft, following 3 top 20 selections in the previous year. The Magpies bizarrely began the next 2 seasons with win-loss records of 8-3 before missing finals both times. Over these 2 seasons, Maxwell, Ball, Beams, Swan and O'Brien would add to the growing premiership exodus and represent a near-total refreshing of the list since Buckley accepted the position as senior coach. The high-profile trade of Beams to the Lions was a profitable one for Collingwood, who added picks 5, 25 and young midfielder Jack Crisp. The Pies drafted Jordan De Goey with pick 5, which at this early stage appears a wise move, although the decision to on-trade pick 25 to North Melbourne for defensive midfielder Levi Greenwood was a curious one. They then replaced Harry O'Brien with Caps Premiership player Travis Varco, which in isolation doesn't appear particularly costly, but Varco, along with Greenwood, could be described as periphery top-up players rather than pieces of the Premiership puzzle. This suggests the Pies were internally happy with the quality of their list, whilst the external perception was that perhaps they should have stuck to the younger recruiting target. 2015 saw Collingwood also cut their losses with perennially injured midfielder Nathan Freeman, trading him to St Kilda for a pittance despite costing them a top 10 pick just 2 years previously. They also traded out former first round pick Ben Kennedy to Melbourne, although this turned out to be an inspired piece of business that landed them Jeremy Howe. Merely an inconsistent forward at Melbourne, Howe has reinvented himself as a high-flying All-Australian defender at the Pies. That off-season was headlined by the acquisition of GWS midfielder Adam Treloar, who famously stated publicly that he chose to play for Collingwood over Richmond as he thought they had a better list. We all know how that one turned out. The Pies signed Treloar for a whopping 6 years, and in his first season he led the club for disposals, tackles, clearances, inside 50s and bounces. Treloar, along with Adams, has proved one of their saving graces over this period of time. At the end of the 2016 season, Will Hoskin-Elliott was traded into the club with a second-round pick. Despite being inconsistent, this represented a good value deal for the Pies given the 24-year-old was a top 4 selection in his draft year. To complement this, however, the Pies offered lucrative deals to veterans Daniel Wells and Chris Mayne. Again, these appeared to be top-up moves over a period of time where Collingwood was sliding down the ladder. The pair have only managed 13 games between them for the club, as the Pies slumped to 13th on the ladder in 2017. Just as speculation was mounting that Buckley may finally be on his way, the club made the surprising move of extending his contract for a further 2 years. From my perspective, there has been a disjointed and inconsistent approach to list management under Buckley's reign. Whilst the push for draft picks initially makes sense, this tactic seems at odds with the desire to add veterans to the list for the sake of topping up, without even waiting to see if the draftees were any good. Further to this, questions must be asked of the recruiting strategy when the senior coach makes comments to the media that he wasn't responsible for the recruitment of Chris Mayne. Whilst appearing to be a bit of a cop-out from Nathan Buckley, it also demonstrates a disunity among the organisation if decisions like this are being made and when there is finger-pointing going on between individuals. At this point in time, the Pies have finished lower on the ladder every season under Nathan Buckley's reign, and the question continues to resurface of how long he can possibly last in the job. It has to be acknowledged that the Pies have the basis for a good side, and following their huge round 4 win over Adelaide there is certainly reason for optimism, but Buckley needs to start delivering on the promise. The midfield is strong, and while they may lack key position talent, there may be a prime candidate to land a big fish like Tom Lynch in the near future. If the Magpies somehow were to win a premiership in the next 4 years, Eddie Maguire will look like a genius for his inexplicable faith in the current regime. But if there is indeed a light at the end of the tunnel for Nathan Buckley, it needs to arrive, and soon. Thanks for watching this video analysis. If you enjoyed the video, please hit subscribe so you can keep up with the rest of our content. If you have any ideas for future videos that you'd like us to do, please leave a comment below. Thanks.